All right, here's where we are going to discuss the Marienschek and Cramer unions. My father knew the Marienschek family. I don't know, because in those days, everybody that lived in the area knew almost everybody, and I guess they went to the same church and so forth. But my father is in this picture with my aunt Loretta, my mother, and Dottie, who was the younger sister in that family. And my aunt Dottie said one time, there were 3 girls in the family, and they were all in love with my father. And I think to a certain degree that was probably true. But anyway, he married Loretta, and he was a builder at the time, and worked for somebody else. Shortly after that way, he became a contractor and started building.
What are you doing? Point to Loretta.
This is, let me see. Now this is Loretta, and this is my mother, and this is Dottie. I already did that later. But anyway, he married Loretta, and they had 2 children. The youngest child was named Loretta too, and the older one was Marion, my sister. And he got it was during the 1918, somewhere around there, when there was a huge flu epidemic, and there were a huge number of people that died at that time, and it was just before the First World War, I believe. Anyway, he was very, very sick, and they thought that he was going to die. And my aunt Loretta, his wife, insisted on taking care of him, although she had just had a baby and was not didn't have a great immune system. So she got the disease from him, and in a period of a week, she got extremely ill and died. And my father was not even aware of the fact that she had died, because he was so sick. And when he got better, as weeks went by, he said, "Where is Loretta?" And they had to tell him that she had died and been buried without him even knowing it. Here he was, when he started to recuperate, here he was with 2 little girls. One was 2 years old, and the other was only 6 weeks old. So he took one of them, and the Cramer side of the family took care of her because she was an infant, and Marion, the older child, went to live with the Marienscheks. And this is a picture of let me see. This is a picture of my Aunt Loretta with Marion shortly before she died. And this is my mother, and here is Dottie again. This is a picture of who I can't actually see whose face is in there, but that's what kind of cars they had, and that was my father's car. And this is before the illness, and Marion, I knew it was about the time it was, because Marion is an infant and she's in the back seat of the car. In any event, they live with their grandparents, and my father went back and forth to visit them, and eventually decided my mother and he decided to get married, and so this is a picture of them when my father was sort of going around with my mom before they were actually married. This is when they actually were married, and I think at that point I was already born, and this is a picture.
How many people?
What was that?
You end up having 4 siblings in the family, and
Well,
Loretta died.
When my father married my mom, they finally got the 2 little sisters back together again. They were they had a household, and in about, what was it, like 3 or 4 years, my brother was born, and everything seemed to be going along pretty well, except that when my sister Loretta was 8 years old, she got spinal meningitis and died, and it just knocked the whole family to pieces. My mother was just devastated, and she said to my father, "I think I could bear this more if I would have another child." My father said, do we really want to have more children, to learn to love them only to lose them? But eventually she talked him into having another child, and I happened to be the result of that.
Like 5 years later?
Yeah, and so I was born 5 years after my brother, and my sister was 11 years older than me. This is a house that my mother loved, and it was really the first one that my father built for her after they were married, and
By this time he had his own business.
By this time he had his own business, and they had another house, which was really nice, but he built this one for her, and she always loved this house. And after my father died, we came back to this house because she loved it so much.
What town was it in?
This house was in Dunellen, and we lived across the street and up the street from this house because it was in Plainfield. And when my sister was old enough to go to high school, the schools in Dunellen were not very good. But Plainfield was a very affluent town and had a very, very good school system. And their high school was phenomenal. And so my father built a house up the street from this one, and just across the street into Plainfield, so that my sister would be able to go to high school.
And this was the one that he built for your mom too.
Yeah, he built that, for everybody.
So the question.
But I knew that house because he built that house when I was 2 years old.
Mm-hmm. So how did the family ended up growing up and being very successful, right? Your sister went on to be accepted into Juilliard, and your mother really fought to get her. Your dad didn't think she should go.
Well, my father was, he was sort of old school. He figured a woman didn't need an education because she'd find a man to take care of her. But my sister was given a scholarship for music when she was in high school, and my mother really talked my father into sending her to college which was, what he thought was kind of unnecessary. But anyway, it gave her a chance to break the ice for all of us, really. And she went to a school in Tennessee, and then transferred to Juilliard, and was in school for 2 years. Unfortunately, by the time she got out of school, she was the Depression was on us, and jobs were extremely scarce, especially in the music field. So she went back to school for to be a secretary, and got a job in New York and commuted into New York every day for.
But wasn't there some stipulation? She was in this huge line, and they said if you have a 4-year degree, raise your hand, and those are the only ones they picked. So
right, yeah, it was. I remember my sister saying how upset she was because she was in a long line for a job, and it was a secretarial job. There were a lot of young girls in the line with her who took secretarial training and knew a lot more about secretarial work than she did, but they went down the line and said to everybody, "Has anybody gone to college here?" And she said they took all of the ones who had gone to college and gave them the first opportunity, and she felt very bad about it, because I remember her saying she said, "I was not as capable as most of the other girls, but just because I'd had the privilege of going to school, I was given a better opportunity." And I guess in a way that still follows today.
Yeah.
We're going back to the Marienschek and Cramer marriage, and we are including a small section here with pictures of Marion and Loretta, who were children from Harry Sr. and from Loretta, who was Anna Cramer's sister and who died at some point. So we're going to start off with the two little girls over on the car. And Mom, can you tell us?
Yeah, well, this is back when Marion and little sister, whose name was Loretta, but my older sister used to call her little sister, so that's the name that she went by. They're standing on the running board of this old car, and it looks to me like little sister must have been about 5 or 6 here, and Marion was a couple years older than that.
When was Marion born?
She was born in, I think it was 1918.
Okay, so this would have been like 1920 or maybe 1925 or something.
Right. I can't really remember. I have to ask Wendy that. This is another picture of them when they were a little older. In fact, I look here and it looks to me like little sister is probably, I'd say seven or eight. And Marion is standing next to her, and they were at the beach.
And Marion's probably like 10 or 12.
Yeah, she's probably about 10. And it was shortly after this picture. Oh, here's another picture of my father, and he's holding Marion and little sister in his arms. This middle picture, though, of Marion and little sister, it was about that time when little sister got very sick, and in a matter of 3 days, she died of spinal meningitis.
Which is a bacterial.
And
it's treatable now.
But it wasn't then.
There was no antibiotics.
Right, and
there was no antibiotics until the World War II.
That's right.
So it was, people died of things that are curable now.
Yeah,
and,
she was 8 years old, and she was in.
To me, that looks like Amy and Wendy. if you were looking at it and you were trying to figure out who it was today, it looks like those two.
Yeah.
So that's
But that's it, Lee, because unless you have more pictures.